For several decades, Disney has given movie-loving audiences around the world some of the most memorable animated and live-action films in cinema history. For children in particular, some Disney films have left an indelible impression on their childhoods, so stay tuned and don't go away, because we're about to reveal Disney movies that are based on real-life events. First up, wait a minute, does Disney produce films that are based on a true story? Absolutely. People are often surprised to learn that Disney is involved with the true story end of the film industry, but we can confirm that this is indeed the case. In fact, Disney hasn't only produced a few films that were based on real-life events. As you're about to see, they've produced several. When many people hear the word Disney, they either immediately think of theme parks or films about magic and princesses. True stories is really the last thing that comes to mind. But when it comes to mastering the art of sharing inspiring true stories through film, Disney has an outstanding track record. One of the best Disney films based on a true story was 1993's Cool Runnings. Cool Runnings was based on the real-life story of the first Jamaican national bobsledding team who competed in the 1988 Winter Olympics in Canada. Disney was quick to see something special and inspirational in the story, and a short 5 years later, the film was released. The film follows the underdog team on their journey to the Olympics and is considered one of the best sports movies ever. Depending on the year you were born, the film could bring back a ton of childhood memories. Next up, what would you do if you had $1 million arm? Let's take a look. In 2008, a man named J.B. Bernstein, a sports agent struggling to save his career, needed to find unknown star pitchers, so he traveled to India to scout two highly regarded cricket players, Rinku Singh and Dinesh Patel. Bernstein's goal was to convince them to return with him back to the United States and try to transfer their amazing pitching talents to American baseball. When Disney execs learned of the true story, they knew they had to turn it into a film, and 2014's $1 Million Arm was born. The film starred John Hamm as J.B. Bernstein. It was very successful and well received by both fans and critics alike. It's a touching story and really inspirational. A lot like our next Disney film, 2006's Glory Road, the film centers around the lead-up to the 1966 NCAA University Division Basketball Championship and the Texas Western team. What was so unique about the Texas Western team at the time is that it was the first team to have an all-black starting lineup in an NCAA title game. The film follows Coach Don Haskins, who decides to build his team based solely on talent and not race. Fans and townspeople in 1960s civil rights era Texas were upset by the all-black team and were quick to voice their racism and displeasure. Up next, what do sled dogs and racehorses have in common? Disney loves them. In 2010, Disney produced one of its best films ever, Secretariat. 12 years later, fans still talk about it. Disney's Secretariat is loosely based on a real racing horse named Secretariat. The movie follows Penny Chenery, played by Diane Lane, who takes over managing her family's thoroughbred horses after her father, Scott Glenn, falls ill and can no longer take care of things around the ranch. Chenery and veteran trainer Lucien Lauren, played by film star John Malkovich, work closely together and train Secretariat. In 1973, Chenery and Lauren made history after Secretariat won the Triple Crown. If you haven't seen it and are in the mood for a great family-friendly movie, give it a shot. You won't be sorry. And if you love animals, you'll love this next Disney film, 2006's 8 Below. Based on real-life events, 8 Below is the perfect film for fearless adventurers. The film's protagonist, the guy named Jerry, played by the late Paul Walker, is stranded in Antarctica during the brutal winter months with 8 sled dogs. Jerry and the dogs must fight to survive without their owner until he's finally reunited with them. The film was inspired by the Japanese Antarctica expedition of 1958 and is one of Disney's classic dog movies. Like Secretariat, Disney saw a story in 8 Below that just had to be told, and they wasted little time putting it together. To this day, both films are frequently talked about. Stay tuned and don't go away, because we're revealing Disney movies that are based on true stories. Next up, what did two Disney films from 1999 and 2000 teach us? How to work together. In 1999, Disney released one of its highest-rated films ever, titled The Straight Story. The film earned an 8.0 rating on the Internet Movie Database, and to put things into perspective, that's a higher score than James Cameron's Titanic. The Straight Story centers around a man named Alvin Straight, a widower and a retired farmer, who learns that his brother Lyle suffered a terrible stroke. Alvin wants to make amends with Lyle before it's too late. However, there's one big obstacle that he'll have to overcome. Alvin will have to travel from Iowa to Wisconsin on a lawnmower because he doesn't have a vehicle or a driver's license. If you want to watch this gem, it's available on Disney+. Another true story Disney film is Remember the Titans. Now, 22 years old, the film is still considered one of the best and most inspiring football films ever made. The film is set in 1971 and stars Denzel Washington as Hernan Boone, who becomes the head coach of a recently integrated high high school football team in Virginia. The former head coach of the team, Bill Yost, played by actor Will Patton, is demoted to assistant coach. But as you'll see if you watch the film, both coaches and the players on the team will have to learn to work together if they're going to be successful. Remember the Titans was the recipient of not one, but 2 NAACP Image Awards, including Outstanding Motion Picture and Outstanding Actor in a Motion Picture for Denzel Washington. Up next, what are 2 other Disney films that deal with close bonds and relationships? Let's find out. Back in 2015, Disney released a much-loved film titled McFarland, USA, a sports film based on the true story of a coach who struggles to connect with students of a track and field team as the group hopes to become champions. Kevin Costner stars as the track coach, Jim White, a new coach for a mostly Latino high school in the 1970s. The movie highlights the differences between the Caucasian coach and the Latino students and how they overcome their differences. In the end, the coach and the team form a special bond and succeed because of their work ethic, talent, and strong support system. But let's travel back to 1999 for a second for another incredible Disney film based on a true story. 1999's Selma, Lord Selma, tells the story of Cheyenne Webb, played by Journey Smollett, a young girl who witnesses one of the most important chapters in civil rights history. The Alabama citizen is inspired by Martin Luther King Jr. in 1965 to take part in the march from Selma, Alabama to Montgomery, Alabama with her friend Rachel, played by Stephanie Zandra Payton. The famed march was very challenging, with a distance of 50 miles in Alabama heat on foot, but it ultimately led to the Voting Rights Act of 1965, so it was well worth the exercise. Next up, who is Ernest Green? You're about to find out. Back in 1993, Disney produced a little-known film that was loved by audiences. It was called The Ernest Green Story. Ernest Green was part of a group dubbed the Little Rock Nine, a group of African-American students who desegregated Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas, despite opposition from Governor Faubus, who fought hard to impede the group's integration agenda. As a result, President Dwight D. Eisenhower sent armed troops to protect Green and his members. After high school, Ernest Green went on to earn a bachelor's and master's degree from Michigan State University. Later, Green served as President Jimmy Carter's Assistant Secretary of the Labor Department and became involved in educational initiatives and labor law. 12 years later, in 2005, Disney released a successful film titled The Greatest Game Ever Played. Film star Shia LaBeouf plays Francis Ouimet, a golfer who starts out as a hard-working caddy and, through sheer practice and dogged determination, works his way up to the 1913 U.S. Open. Ouimet not only plays well at the U.S. Open, but he defeats his idol, Harry Vardon. Like the other films discussed in this video, the film is a true story. It was also right around this time that LaBeouf started to be taken seriously as an actor, which led to him going on to become a major film star. Finally, what is the greatest board game ever played? Disney's based on a true story film, Queen of Katwe, 2016, tells the true story of Fiona Nutesi, played by Medina Nalwanga, a young Ugandan woman who discovers she's a chess whiz. Actor Lupita Nyong'o plays Fiona's mother, Naku Harriet. Fiona cares for her little brother and sells corn grains with her mom. With guidance from Robert Katende, played by actor David Oyelowo, Fiona becomes the champion she was always meant to be. That's a wrap for today's video. Thank you for watching.